Hi everyone, this is chapter 5, lesson 1. We're going to start putting together our show. So what I'm going to do is I've got a whole load of FBXs here in a folder which I've exported from 3D Max. All the individual bits of the show that we're looking at, which is Jesus Christ Superstar. And we're going to put them into the scene and we can start to see them in here in this space. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my content folder, 3D models. I'm going to start importing all these objects. Now I'll just do one just to start with, and then I'll show you actually we can just do them all in one go. So I'm going to start off with proscenium. There we are. So the proscenium, we just click and drag it in like that. I mean, sorry if you didn't see what I did, I literally just grabbed it and pull it in, and it gives you a little marquee to say it can go in. I've already done it, so I won't do it again. And then this is it here, and I can see a little model of it. If I click on my thumbnail, if I click on the arrow, you can see the constituent parts that make up that object. Now this is really messy. This is not how you'd normally build it, but these are the component parts. These are the individual meshes. These should ideally all be renamed and made, organised. There's materials for them which are all identical because there wasn't actually a material assigned to the objects when I exported them. So it's created one for each. And an animation as well, which doesn't do anything because I haven't actually animated it. But if I had animated it in 3D Max, you would see that in here. So that's just one object. Now, just to save time, I am going to bring all of these across. So let's just select everything, with the exception of that DWG file I don't want. We can't bring DWGs into Unity, it doesn't accept them, doesn't like them. And that proscenium that I've already brought in. So where is it? There we are. So I'm just going to click and drag everything else in. Ta-da. It'll take a moment just to bring all those in and compile them. There we go. Now, if I want to bring one of these objects into the scene, let's take the proscenium for instance, I can click and drag it and put it in here, and it will dump it somewhere, and you can see that the position of it has been put in relative to where I had the mouse pointer when I let go of the button. So you click and drag and it sort of leaves it there. So it's a good way of just placing things where you want. If, however, you drag it into the hierarchy here, it will put it in at 0, 0, 0, which is really handy because then you know everything's in the right place. And there it is. Now, when I exported this from Unity, from 3D Max, I didn't specify what the up is. In 3D Max, Z is up, and in Unity, Y is up, but it looks like it has gone in the right way around, otherwise it'd be on the floor. So let's just grab everything and stick it all in one go. Okay, there's loads of things in here, stairs and rostras. I'll do that again, but once again, I'm going to unclick proscenium, so I've already done it. I'm going to click, and I'm going to drag it into my hierarchy, and there we go, there's my set. Just like that, it really isn't always that easy. Sometimes there's all sorts of problems. Now, a couple of things you'll notice, there's some really weird things happening with the materials. There's like a fog. That's the materials, they're reflecting. So it's trying to process that. I've got a weird box. I don't know what that is. That's just come in. That's obviously caught up in that folder, so let's get rid of that. In fact, we'll delete it from here too. Delete that. Now you notice that I've imported FBXs. FBXs is what I recommend as the right thing to bring in. When you're exporting, I did mention this in an earlier lesson, but make sure you click Embed Media if you're using an Autodesk product. So when you do file export, in fact 3D Max is a game exporter tool which I'd recommend you use. Bring it all in as individual objects, so you don't have one great big FBX for everything. You want things to be separated. So now I've got all of these things sort of in groups, and I did this when I was exporting. I was selecting things, exporting those objects together. So this set of stairs here is made up of quite a lot of things, quite a lot of bits. I deliberately went and selected all of these in 3D Max to group them together and exported them as one piece. And even though I can get to them at a sub level if I want to, what's quite nice, I've just got a big object like this. The reason that's handy is what we'll get to later on is a set of treads like this. These actually sort of open and close like this, and we want to do some animation on that so it can slide underneath. So we want to create some buttons to control that, so we can do scene changes. We can do that in chapter 6 when we start looking at Playmaker and how to build our own custom interactions. I've also got a set of treads back here, so a door, which needs to rotate like this, and in fact it needs to rotate on a pivot, which we're going to cover later as well. So that can sit in the right place. So that is kind of how you import things into the scene. Now in the next lesson we're going to try applying some materials and shaders to these. We're not going to do anything too complicated, but just so we can start to see how the scene's going to look. We're going to just tidy this all up because you can see the materials are doing something very strange at the moment. And of course, if you've got your own shows, you might want to break it down even further. Like I've got legs here. I've left those grouped together. Now I can move them individually if I wanted to. I could. Sorry, let me do it. I could select them at a sub level. But yeah, it's up to you how you want to piece things up. Something I'd recommend when you're exporting is things like windows and doors, is that you separate those out of like a whole piece of scenery. But think about it in the way that the show is going to run. So if something's built as a physical truck and that's moving around on your stage, then do the same thing in here. Like that, keep that as one big group. And if something has to move inside that, then separate that. So everything sort of stays grouped into its sections. And we can go a step further with this. We could try neatening up this folder structure on this. So if I create an empty, I might create one called venue. We discussed this earlier. In fact, I've already got one up there from earlier, so I'll delete that. I'll use this one. Venue. So I've got my proscenium that will go into venue. I've got my forestage that will go into venue, and stage floor or show floor. There's two different ones here. Let's make sure the right one. Let's just to check. I'm gonna just tick it off and on. There we go. So that's the right one. It's underneath all of that. So you see, there's two floors there. There's the actual floor, and then there's this, which is the show floor. So that's, I've called it game floor. That's a slip up when I was naming things. So I'm going to just drag show floor into there as well, or stage floor either. So now in venue, I have a group of all the things that relate to the venue, and I'm also going to create another one which is masking, which is kind of helpful because sometimes all this stuff around the outside can get in the way. It's obviously a very important part of the show, but when you're trying to set up, you can sometimes do without it. So if I just turn venue off so I don't get muddled, I'm going to select my masking, my legs, I'm going to select my borders, and I've got a second set of masking. Ooh. There. So I'm going to drag those into masking. And I've just realised something else I've got which could be organised. I'm just going to drag this up here to make it neat. So it's next to venue. Venue masking. I've also got this wall at the back. Now, you see what's really clever is because I built this as a plane, you know planes are two-sided. When I look at it from this direction, you can see through it. But when you look from this side, you don't. And that's really, really useful because obviously you don't want things to see through the back of the stage. But when you are looking from the outside, you want to be able to see through it. And this is where one-sided materials can be quite useful. So I don't have to get rid of that. That's quite useful to leave there. But I will just move outside wall into my venue. So that's disappeared for now. And if I turn off my masking, in theory all the masking should turn off. Oh, and I've got my backcloth. Do I put that in masking? Debatable. No, I probably won't. That's part of the main stage, so that's backcloth. And then I've got all my treads and my rostra. So what I might just do is create another empty and call that scenery. Now I might, if I had lots of acts, I might call that Act 1 or Act 2 or Act 1 Scene 1 or Act 2 Scene 2. And I'm going to put all of that into my scenery node. There we go. And now I've got these three nodes, masking, scenery and venue. I'm going to create another one which is going to be a parent for all of those, the root. I'm going to call it 3D stage. So that's where all of this will live. Just turn these back on again and drag them all in here. Just keep my hierarchy nice and neat. So you see I've got canvas, I've got lights, you know, we'll have more lights in it later. I've got a root node there which I created earlier when I was doing some demonstrations for you, so I don't need that anymore, so I'm going to get rid of that. And the event system I'll keep because it will just get rebuilt later if we do a user interface, which we will. Post-process volume we'll leave in there. I'll explain that later when we start looking at cameras and things. So I'm going to end the lesson there because I think we've done all we can to this 3D scenery. But you can see just how easy it is to get your set into the venue. But now you've got to do the work with it. Now the hard part begins. So let's move on to materials and assigning those in the next lesson.